right, so here we are, just a few days away from Christmas. Everyone seems to be in a good mood, and the investment markets have performed well in 2024. Lots of Christmas shopping going on. Seems people are happy with the growth in their accounts. Welcome to another episode of Dollars and Cents, where we help you make sense out of all of life's decisions involving your dollars. My name's Rob Field, and I am a certified financial fiduciary and a national Social Security advisor at Nelson Financial Planning, where our team of certified financial fiduciaries stands ready to help you change your life this week with a successful and cost-effective financial plan that produces superior investment results and provides you with peace of mind for the future. To my left is Christina Lamb. She is an IRS enrolled agent, also a certified financial fiduciary. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Rob. How are you doing?
I am doing well. We are just moving right along. For this week's episode, Joel Garris is off. He will return next week with kind of the final show of the year. Some interesting things there, but we've got some things lined up for you today that I think you'll find very interesting. Obviously, we're just a little bit around the corner from Christmas, trying to get ready for that. Holiday cheer is in the air. How are things with you on your Christmas side?
Holidays are always very hectic for me. Christmas is such a busy time between working and you got to mail out Christmas cards, you got a Christmas shop, you got baking, activities, wrapping presents, half of which I still don't have done. So it's going to be a very busy weekend. The list is kind of endless. But I think the best part of Christmas overall is, on Christmas Day, we have everyone come over and just watching everybody get together and having the friends and family, and all that time you put in December goes through in just a few hours, but it's a great few hours, and I wouldn't change it for a world. All the craziness. It's probably one of my favorite holidays.
I have to agree. It's one of my favorite holidays, too. You talk about wrapping presents. I am probably the worst present wrapper. I like doing it. I get out the paper. I have a little organization box with my tape, and it looks good. And I get it all folded up, and then one end is missing a piece, and the other end's too long, and then I just slap a cheap bow on it and hope that people will open it quickly. But I've got, for me, all my family will be in town. I have a brand new granddaughter, as you know, Maisie.
Cute as a button.
I'm biased, but yeah, she's pretty cute. She's, as granddaughters go, she's top notch. This will be her first Christmas, and so she was born in June. She's a little young to understand exactly what's going on, but for us, it's fun to buy stuffed animals and do Christmas stuff and sing songs to her. So I get a big kick out of that. And then, just like Thanksgiving or any other of the really big holidays, I enjoy the food. As a single guy, it's nice to know I go someplace and we're eating some really, really good food. All right, so in today's show, we're going to talk about a variety of things. 3 things we want to kind of share with you. One is going to be, we're going to look at the relationship between money and happiness. We're going to talk a little bit about how budgeting can relieve stress, and then how to forecast your cash flow once you get into retirement. But first, I do want to address the recent federal rate cut that we had saw earlier in the week. Stocks and bonds had a sell-off after the Federal Reserve ended its policy meeting on Wednesday with a new set of economic projections that pointed to a potentially slower pace of interest rate cuts than what we had previously projected. Anytime there's a shift in rate perspectives, then you are going to see volatility. Some of this is the market reaction and continuing to digest, I guess, what happened with the election over the last month. There's still a lot of variables in what could change as we head towards 2025, but this was a strong year. And so, as much as we see market volatility, it is normal. It's happened for the last 100-plus years. Unfortunately, will continue. It's just part of the regime of investing in the stock market. But it's, again, nothing we've never seen before. It's just part of the cycle. It's a natural flow of the investment markets.
Yeah, I have to agree. A slowdown in decreasing the rates seems to be like the natural course. We've had several cuts this year. At some point they do need to slow down. They can't keep cutting forever. So, given that, even though there has been that little bit of decrease, we have seen some amazing returns this year. So investors really should be happy if they were in the market for the performance. The S&P, as of the middle of the week, was returning about 24% year to date. The Dow was at 12%. The NASDAQ, a whopping 30%, and the Russell was around 11%. So depending on, if you had a diversified portfolio, you really should have had a great year if you were in the market.
Yeah, those numbers are real strong. Now, the numbers you just shared, did they reflect the kind of the recent pullback we had earlier in the week?
They did. They absolutely did. So, the media loves to make it seem like such a big deal. And yes, it was 3% in one day, but there was also days that it was up. It was, up right immediately after. So, things like that. It's still a strong year. Just because you had one bad day or a bad week doesn't mean it's going to alter results that much for the year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right. So we're kind of talking a little bit about happiness and money and the relationship with it. And we're going to pose this question numerous times, can money buy you happiness? For me, I would say, at least it's got to be at least a motivation, right? I mean, you're working hard, you're making money, you got to be motivated to want to keep that money coming in. So, the satisfaction of earning the money and then how you spend it and how you save it, I think that generates a satisfaction. We'll talk a little bit about that, and different people will view that in different ways. But for me, what makes me comfortable is to kind of think ahead. I'm one of those guys that worry about things even if it's probably not going to happen. But then I find a lot of peace in saying, okay, if this were to happen, I've done this. If that's going to happen, I've done that. So if I've planned ahead and kind of stick to my plan and say, okay, this plan works, whatever gets thrown my way that could affect my finances, I'm ready for it. And then typically just enjoy the results because I feel like I'm prepared.
So I would have to agree. I'm a bit of a worrier myself. However, I do feel like there's a bit of a baseline as when you say, can money bring you happiness? I don't think the money itself is what gives you the happiness, but the money affords you the ability to do things or have the security or whatever the case may be that makes you feel more comfortable or brings you enjoyment in life.
Mm-hmm. I mean, those are really good points. One item that we're going to touch upon is sort of how you spend your money. And we're going to talk a little bit about you could buy experiences or you could actually buy material goods. And so there's a little bit difference, right? I mean, one is sort of, enjoying things in general, and some of it's more of, enjoying something that you physically own.
I am definitely more of the experience person. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do like nice things. I have plenty of them. But I think the thing that makes me happiest in life would be like traveling, which technically is an experience, or going on an adventure or hiking or, I love like sort of dining options that turn into an experience, not just eating a meal or a unique adventure that you can't just get anywhere. It's something you can do because you're in a specific place or time, things of that nature. Even when it comes to Christmas, I love the experience of Christmas. My favorite part is not getting, the fuzzy slippers that I wanted. It's having the chaos in my house of all my family and friends and eating good food and, watching Uncle Joe get drunk, whatever the case may be. I love the experience of the day.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, obviously the experiences are wonderful. I have a tendency to lean towards the physical side. I want my car to be nice and have a nice stereo. I want to have a big TV. I have a motorcycle. I want, to have nice running shoes. And so, I should enjoy the experiences more, and I think over time, especially in retirement, I probably will.
I think with that grandbaby, you might enjoy those experiences more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm experiencing new things like diapers and diaper changes and
I don't know
bibs, and sometimes I'll head from work directly over to their house, and I'll be like, I'm in my suit, and this kid is sort of, giving me a little bit of a run for my money. All right, so you're listening to Dollars and Cents. We will be back after this break, continue our discussion about money and happiness. Let's take a look at the definition of happiness. I just thought I would just toss that out. It's sort of a sense of well-being, ability to find joy, or just simply being content. So happiness is kind of a general description of feeling good and positive. I thought I would share, if you don't mind, Christina, I always like to do a little music reference, a couple of song lyrics just for the fun of it. We find that even musicians like to talk about money. It makes a great subject in music. They'll talk about it in a positive way. Sometimes they'll talk about it in a negative way. Everybody can relate to some time in their life when they were either really flush and feeling good about money, or maybe they were a little stressed due to some money issues. A couple of songs I found interesting. 1997 rapper Notorious B.U.D.G.E.T.S, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, had a song that contained the chorus, "It's like the more money we come across, the more problems we see." And then later on, Kanye West, he had a line that said, having money's not everything, not having it is. And then one of my favorite groups is the Beatles, so I have to throw a quote from them back in the 60s. They once said, I don't care too much for money. Money can't buy me love. Okay, it's debatable. So with that, it seems that, too much money or not enough money can create issues, and that's just something to keep in mind. Thought I'd throw out a little bit of a musical reference. Over time, we've done some studies and we've read some studies that talks about investing in the relationship to happiness. And most people find a way to make money generate happiness. There are examples where somebody may have misused the money and maybe didn't have good, proper guidance. But, as an investor or as a saver or just being charitable, these are ways that you can create happiness for yourself or for others, accumulating wealth, trying to have positive thoughts, keep an eye on your investments.
I think it's interesting. We keep saying money can buy you happiness, but, for most of my life, I was always told money can't buy you happiness. And in some ways, I do think that's very true. It's the camaraderie, the friendship, the love. Those are things that truly make you happy. But money does help get you there. So I think it would be interesting if, someone doesn't believe that money can generate your happiness. You should ask that person to give it all away and then see how happy they really are. Think of, for example, the old story of the lottery winner. And, they run into all this money. It's a sudden thing. And then a few years later, they end up broke and possibly in debt. And, some of that could be from poor financial planning. Some of that could be from unrealistic expectations. But having a large influx of money could lead to a disaster. And some people would love to have a large influx of money. I have always been along the lines of I would never want to have that much money, like where I won the lottery. I feel like it would just cause way too many problems than it would be worth. I'd like to have a good amount of money, but just not a ton. But not everybody feels that way. And, would that large sum of money bring you happiness? Would it generate more for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I would like to say I'd like a chance to experience winning the lottery and see if maybe I can...
You'll take your odds.
Yeah, and maybe I can figure out a way to be happy with the money. I don't know. I would certainly give it my best try. Anytime you get a sudden influx of money, it always changes things dramatically, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But, kind of what we're thinking is, what might be your goal for the future? Based on your current income or anticipated income, what are your goals for now, next day, next week, next year? And so, you then kind of ask yourself, what's the definition of say, financial happiness? We know what it is to be happy, to be content, but financial happiness can be a variety of things. It might be that you want to accumulate some money and leave it to the next generation. It might be that you want to be charitable while you're alive, see your money in action. It might just be that you want to just do things for yourself. And every so often I've spoken to a client who says, my kids are great, I'm spending all this money myself. And so different ways to kind of look at estate planning. But again, a professional can help you on that side. But, it's a personal choice what money's going to do for you.
Yeah, I think over the past few years, we've really seen an influx of clients wanting to give more now versus later on in life when they pass away. Whether it's through qualified charitable distributions from their IRA accounts to charities, or whether it's gifting money to their kids or anyone for that matter, now versus when they pass. And I think it's because they would like to see their kids and their family or loved ones, whatever the case may be, enjoy some of that money now and make sure, they have more happiness in their life, like not just when they pass away, but maybe it's something they can enjoy with them now. It helps them get a better house. Maybe they all travel together, whatever the case may be. So we definitely see more folks gifting money before they pass away than I have ever seen in my 20 plus years working in the industry. And if you still have some time to give a 24 gift, the gifting amount is $18,000 per person for 24, and it jumps up to $19,000 per person for 25. So if it is something that sounds interesting, you do have a little bit of time to do that this year still.
And that's per person, right? If
Yes.
you got a husband and a wife, they could actually do 36. We've seen a lot of those.
Yes, absolutely.
And it can be to as many different people
In that family. So if, there's a husband and a wife and you're giving to, your child with a spouse, then you could technically give the $36,000 twice to each of them.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I would lean towards wanting to see some of the money that I had earned and I want to pass on to the next generation be used while I'm still around. I think that would be exciting. I get, it's you want there to be some money for your kids when you pass, but a little bit of it going to them now. I would be a fan of that.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be an outright gift like $18,000. That could be a lot to
Right.
some folks. It could just be taking them on a trip somewhere and everybody enjoying that experience together.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I like the way you're thinking that. So when we talk about an investment plan, that kind of fits into your goal of what you want to do to, save your money and move your money forward. There's always a comfort level in sticking to that plan, making your plan, sticking to it so you don't get off course. Stick with your spending plan, your retirement budget of how you want to get there. All of these goals, if you stick with them, are going to help you kind of lead towards financial success. So when we talk about financial success, you got to kind of get some guidance, have somebody help you, hold your hand, walk you through it. There is a need for a financial professional, somebody who's trained in this area to kind of listen to your goals and your thoughts and what your plans are, and then kind of direct you what you might have to tweak on that plan to actually hit the goals that you're talking about. So some of the things that a financial professional could do for you would be to help you set realistic goals. You got to you can set a goal, but if it's not realistic, it's really going to create a problem somewhere down the road. It's managing expectations. What can you really achieve based on what you're talking about? Finding the right investment allocation, very important, because you can say, well, I'm going to save this amount of money and it's going to grow like this and then I'm going to achieve this number. But if the investments aren't in correlation with what your goal is, you could run into a problem. Financial professional can help you there. And then performance monitoring. You got to, as you go along, you can't just set a plan and then walk away from it for 20 years and think you'll be where you want to be. You've got to monitor it year by year at least. And of course, we encourage people to come in at least once a year and talk about their plans. At Nelson Financial Planning, we strive to address all of these important financial issues. We have no account minimum, so we're here to help anybody who wants to get started with a plan get on road for that. All of our advisors are certified financial fiduciaries, which means everything we do is in your best interest. We are obligated by that designation. And then the last thing we take pride in is that we can help you set up a cost-efficient plan. An investment plan to help you achieve your results does not have to be expensive. You do not have to pay exorbitant fees. It's just really not necessary. So let's talk a little bit about when money comes in a little extra and we say, how does a change in income or how would an inheritance affect somebody's money goals? So the first thing is we call it this baseline. Kind of what are you normally used to spending every month or every year? Does that baseline change as more money comes in, or do you kind of sustain the same baseline of spending but have extra money going towards savings? The other thing we're going to do is maybe compare your net worth to somebody else. You might decide what feels better, what feels good to you, spending or saving. And of course, sticking to that plan can give you a relief of any financial stress you might be having. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this short break. More information coming to you on Dollars and Cents here in Winter Park, Florida. We're going to talk a little bit about focusing on your age. One thing you want to do with your money is kind of think of, what are things you can do to make yourself not happier today, but later on in life as you might be getting older.
I think one of the things the older I get that I've realized, I started spending more money on services that help relieve stress for me. So like most of us, time is always so precious to me and there's so little of it and so many things to do. So in the past, I would have never paid for like delivery services or even someone helping to clean my house or things of that nature. But the older I get, it's not so much spending the money on those things. It's the time that it creates for me to do the other things that I really enjoy, like spending time with my family or activities or, stress relief of working out, things of that nature.
Yeah, that's interesting. For me, as I get older, I'm trying to focus on exercise because I have a tendency to sort of, like when I was younger, I would play tennis or I would do sports. And now that I'm not really doing that, I have to kind of push myself. So I've got this gym membership that I think works out. Other thing I'm trying to do is eat a little healthier. I have a tendency to buy microwave food and then slap it in the microwave, and I'm trying to think of ways to eat a little bit healthier on that side. Let's talk about some other goals that other people might have. So it's going to include things like buying experiences, not goods, enjoyment from what you do, not what you buy. We talked about that before. Make it a treat. It's always important that if you're going to splurge, that you realize it is a splurge and not just a habit. Buying time, as Christina had mentioned, paying someone to do a job that frees you up to do activities that you would prefer is a great way. Pay now, consume later. A lot of people have a tendency to use their credit card and buy a bunch of stuff and then plan on paying it off over time. The debt, the interest rate just kills them. And the next thing you know, they've got this old couch, this old sofa, whatever it is, that's wearing out, and yet they're still making payments on it. So you can pay now so that you can consume it later. Plan by by saving. It works out real well. And then giving to others. That's, there's a lot of different variants there, but people like to talk about how they're going to give this money to other people. So let's shift over. To make a lot of this happen, you got to have a budget, and you got to kind of stick to it. A budget can create happiness. It can increase peace of mind. It helps for kind of a smooth plan on your spending as well as your saving. Can help you avoid problems, and we think it would lead to a very successful retirement. So once again, we're going to look at the acronym budget, something that we have done before, but we feel like the time has come to share it again.
I feel like it's very near and dear to Rob and myself as we came up with this acronym.
Yeah, very much so. So, what we did was we said, the word budget is important. So what if we break down the word budget to an acronym and have in each letter kind of a reminder of what's important inside of a budget? So we simply said, okay, we've got, the letter B, U, D, G, E, T, and S, and then each one kind of represents something. So why don't we do this like the Academy Awards?
Okay.
The answer for B is...
balance.
Oh, I was hoping he would win. We talk about balance. That's, balancing your income versus balancing your expenses, and talking about money in, money out. And you've got to have a balance there that matches up. It's just basic accounting. So we switch over to the letter U, which we said would stand for understanding. And we meant that to be sort of understanding your current situation of where you are and understanding what your investment knowledge is and how to apply it. Why don't you take D?
Yeah. D stands for debt. That's including short and long-term debt. Again, knowing what debt you have, the time you want to pay it off, and how long it's going to last, what those payments are, to hopefully free up some other income down the line.
Excellent. So under our budget, we said G would stand for goals. And this is where you have to kind of analyze your short-term goals and how that works in the budget, and then your long-term goals and how your budget is going to generate what you need in the long term.
E is for expectations. That's understanding your investments and the longevity. So the investments of what is a realistic expectation that your investments are going to perform at. How long is that going to take to get you to where you want to be so you can retire?
Excellent. So in budget, we have the letter T, which stands for transition. This is where we talk about transitioning from a work environment to a retirement environment and what you would do differently in retirement that you weren't doing at work. And you've got a plan for that. You got a plan for what you will be doing physically, but also financially, how that's going to come along.
And finally, S is for solutions. This is investment options and budget reviews. These are things you have to look at constantly throughout the time, and I don't mean like every 6 months, but at least once a year, reevaluating your budget, making sure you're on track, making sure it still fits your goals for the future and your lifestyle, and that goes the same for your investment objectives.
Excellent. So we've got that, B.U.D.G.E.T.S, covered them all.
Budgets.
Budgets. Can't get enough of that, right? All right, so let's see, where are we going next? All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about forecasting your cash flow in retirement. Want to talk about that? That sounds good?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm going the direction you would like to go. So go ahead.
All right. Yeah, we have the 7 things to consider when forecasting your cash flows for retirement.
Excellent. Okay. So I wanted to go back to budgets. I'm so proud of this. I wanted to start off with
Can't get enough of it.
T for transition. So from work to retirement. And so we're talking about your forecasting in retirement, which is part of the transition of money that was coming in from work versus money that was coming in when you are in retirement. So we go back to that comment I always talked about, the baseline, which I refer to that as the money that you're making and then the money you're spending. And that can change from time to time. One thing is going to change certainly would be from a work environment to a retirement environment. So as you start making your decisions for retirement, you got to kind of think about what that baseline would look at. If you are about to retire, then you kind of know what your current spending level is. So you kind of know what you want that budget to look like, and then you can make it higher, make it lower if you wish. If you're looking ahead, if you're not going to retire for, say, 20 years, that baseline is going to have to be very flexible, because with inflation, how much you're actually making, what you're used to spending, you'd have to be a little more flexible on that.
The second thing to look into for your cash flow for retirement is remembering that you don't need to incorporate the funds that you were saving previously. So you won't have to save nearly as much, quite honestly, none, in retirement other than for some bills. I mean, you wouldn't just have that saving basket still. So that part of your budget is gone. And it's interesting, it's typically easier for higher income earners to save more. So when they do forecast for their retirement budget, they actually see a bigger savings in retirement because a larger portion of their salary was going to savings, whereas, that decreases for people who earn less money.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. One thing to keep when you're forecasting that cash flow would be tax issues. One would be there would be a tax reduction, because when you're working, you're actually taking about almost 8% of your income is going to pay for funding Social Security and for funding Medicare. 6.2% goes to Social Security, 1.45% goes to Medicare. So you're going to have a reduction in that taxable part of your income when you move forward.
Next, we have no taxes on earned income could be from a job, could be advantageous to you. So if for you in retirement, if you don't have earned income, or for, say, retirement income or very little retirement income, these are items that would be taxed at ordinary income, then you could have significant tax savings there. So, for example, if you just have Social Security and you're living off of some of your capital gains and dividends, you would be in a very low tax bracket, chances are, or even potentially a 0% tax bracket. So for some people, that sort of tax planning area would be a very big key to understanding how much you would have available to you.
That makes sense. Another part of forecasting your cash flow would be housing costs. Things can change when you're going into retirement. You might be picking up a second home. You decide, hey, I've got some time, I want to have a beach house. Maybe you're going to downsize. You still just want to have one house, but it doesn't need to be as large as it was when you're moving forward. Or maybe you stay in your current house, but you just simply refinance the mortgage or try to pay it off or reduce your numbers there. That's one way that you could have an effect on your cash flow. So we got a few more things that we're going to talk about under your cash flow when we return, and then we'll continue our conversation about money. Welcome back to Dollars and Cents, coming to you from Orlando, Florida, here in the recording studio of Nelson Financial Planning in Winter Park. Got a couple of guest hosts, Rob Field and Christina Lamb, both certified financial fiduciaries with Nelson Financial Planning, continuing our conversation about money, happiness. When we left off, and we're going to jump back in, is kind of cash flow in retirement, some of the things to consider that are important.
So our next thing to consider for your cash flow in retirement is lifestyle changes. So now that you're not working, you're going to be doing more things that you enjoy, and that's a little different for everybody. It may be more traveling, it may be more eating out, more focus on hobbies. So in some ways, you'll have to increase your budget for those things, but in other ways, there may be some expenses that you no longer are incurring. So for example, you may not have a long commute anymore. You may not have those gas and toll expenses. You don't have to buy work clothes or things of that nature. So that could be a decrease in your budget as well. So those are all the sort of things you'd want to factor in for whatever those lifestyle changes are in your budget during retirement.
That's an excellent point. When looking at cash flow, healthcare costs always come into play. It's always a a moving factor that it changes for different people based on their health and as they get older. We've got Medicare, so in some form or fashion, you can tap into Medicare for your health coverage, and it can be a pretty reasonable price per month. Usually, it saves you some money of what you were having to pay when you were working. But over the years, as your health changes, sometimes the Medicare and the coverage is going to go. It's not going to be as strong or not going to give you all the things you need. Assisted living, increased drug costs. Medicare will cover some of it. At some point, maybe you have to move out of your house. So healthcare costs have got to be given plenty of priority when you're looking at your cash flow in retirement. Really, the bottom line is flexibility. When we look at all of these cash flow issues, you got to be flexible. As you get older, as your income changes, as your needs change, your budget change, you got to be flexible. So that budget and the cash flow monitoring, it's an ever-changing exercise. Constantly has to be reviewed. And whether that's you and your spouse or whether you're tapping into your financial advisor and kind of making sure that the investments are meshing with your budget, things to consider can be the random cost. You can plan. This is where I always run into trouble. I plan on everything I can possibly think of, and then I get a curveball. And so I have to be flexible and understand that that's going to occur. Inflation, it's a constant moving battle. Every year, the prices of things go up. And as much as the Fed will try to alter that up and down with rate cuts, inflation is going to continue. Long-term care, it's very expensive as you get older to maintain either a certain lifestyle or the ability to stay healthy, and where you do that and what that costs can be tough. And then providing family members. These are things that you just don't know what other family members are going to do, what help they may need, what you want to provide for them. All of these can affect your goals, and you just want to remain flexible. So we've looked at, happiness and the budget and being flexible. Brings us back to that money and its relationship to happiness. So I want to pose this thought. Give me your thoughts. Let me know what you think on this. Are you happy with the performance of your investments, or is the performance of your investments making you happy?
I don't know. I thought about that, excuse me, quite a bit. And it's really an interesting question. I think if you look at the Consumer Confidence Index, it has been higher lately. We've had the election, holidays, inflation. All of those things are being addressed to some sort. And I think the unknown is what really scares people. And then once you kind of see what's going on, we all can adapt and adjust accordingly. Whether it's what you like or not, it is what we have to live with and kind of carry on forward. And so, speaking of those sorts of adjustments, we did see, as we discussed earlier in the show, they did decrease the Fed funds rate by 1/4 point, which might encourage a little bit more borrowing and maybe help the housing markets a little bit because interest rates will drop, and encourage a little bit more spending, which might lead, if you're somebody like Rob, to more happiness.
No, all good points. It's been a fun show. We're talking about some things that are very interesting. I think it's pertinent to our listeners. You should certainly give thought to, what does your budget look like? Have you made a budget? Certainly want to think about, what makes you happy and how does money integrate with that? And then, of course, at some point you're going to shift from a working environment over to more of a retirement environment. And what does that entail? What does it look like? We ask a lot of times our clients when they're in the office, what does retirement look like to you? And that's going to be part of that's going to be what makes you happy while you are in retirement. And then you can back up and talk about the different examples that we had mentioned. Can money buy you happiness? And that's what we're asking. And I think the question is kind of a general question, but what do you think? Can money buy you happiness?
I think ultimately, yes. I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it's the money itself that gives you happiness, but it's what the money affords you to be able to do. And that's where you get your happiness. And it's so different, as we've kind of talked about in all of these examples, for every person. Some people, when they retire, they want to work a little bit, so that brings more money into their budget. Some people, when they retire, they want to help with their grandkids, so there isn't an extra income there. You know, retirement looks so different to everyone, and that's why it is just so important to, you know, have a budget, think it out. You know, whether it's, you know, you have your financial planner as you described earlier, or you talk between yourself and who's ever budgeting your own accounts, and just make sure you understand where you are at that current point.
Yeah, that's a good point. For me, I think money can buy you happiness. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's materialistic and like, you know, you have to have money, you have to buy things to make yourself happy. But access to money can make you comfortable in retirement, can help you help family members, can keep your, you know, driving a car that's not constantly breaking down. I think having that as a goal, it's important to me. If you stick to your savings and your spending plan, that's the key. You got a plan for saving and a plan for spending. Integrate the budget. If you do that, I think it does equate to success and happiness. I think we're in agreement that, you know, everybody's different. Money is going to make you happy in different ways. We all want a chance to have some money. We're certainly not going to try to, you know, balk at that. You know, I think it's important that we know, or you feel comfortable with what makes you happy, and you stick to your guns, and that you keep to your budget, and that you make sure that you're planning ahead for the future. And now, again, you know, in recapping, we once again have brought up the great budget, B.U.D.G.E.T.S, something that we've utilized. We talk about it a lot. You'll hear it again on other shows. I'm kind of proud of it.
I think we are proud of it. I mean, it's a nice little acronym to help keep you in line and think of all the things that you need to look at when putting together your budget.
Right. So, you know, we've looked at happiness. Everybody can talk about what makes them happy. We hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas, and you know, we remember the holidays, we remember the family, but there's a lot of spending going on. It's you know, Christmas is going to be a strong consumer and retail endeavor. The numbers are already very strong. 2024 has been very, very strong for performance, even with the slight pullback of the Fed markets. We're still seeing some things that are great. And the election has come and gone, and it has not really damaged the market that much. And so the forecast looks pretty good for 2025. I think next week Joel will actually be doing his fearless forecast. Isn't that correct? In which he'll analyze, he'll give you his analysis on 2024, and then also talk a little bit about what he thinks may happen in 2025. We're you know, we're looking at that forecasting. We hope you enjoyed. You hope we find this helpful. Anytime that you want us to kind of engage with you, we would certainly love to talk to anybody about investing. If you like what you've heard today and you want to learn more about our team of certified financial fiduciaries here at Nelson Financial Planning and how we think we can help change your life with a successful and cost-effective financial plan, just go to our website, Nelson Financial Planning. You're going to fill out the Contact Us form, set up a free conversation, or you can call our office directly, 407-629-6477. We still have people at the office, live people, who answer the phone, and we don't use voicemail. You always talk to somebody live. And remember, we don't believe in account minimums at Nelson Financial Planning, because our purpose is to help everyone get a financial plan with better results at a lower cost. Appreciate you tuning in to Dollars and Cents. Tune in next week, and we will continue to do our best to help you. Enjoy Christmas.